Yeah, welcome to the Making of Me podcast, where we explore the defining moments and challenge that shape who we have become. Today, we are joined by Chip Scholz, an executive coach, author, and leadership strategist who rebuilt his life and career after a stroke. Chip helps leaders navigate change, make intentional decisions, and lead with purpose and patience. It's really a pleasure to have you on the show, Chip.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. So, Chip, what were some of the challenges that shaped you into who you become today?
That's a long question because I've had a long life. And looking back over life, life throws you all kinds of curveballs, doesn't
Yeah.
it? And all those curveballs, they teach you something. You can either take it as getting beat down or you can take it as a challenge. When I think back to some of the things that happened. My parents died really early. My dad was 51. My mom was 56. I was 30 when I was an orphan. Within a 5 year time span, I was divorced, lost both parents, lost a job, changed houses. All kinds of stuff, and all of those stressors. It goes to make you who you are. It goes to mindset, and then May of 1998, I got laid off from a job out in Los Angeles. Got a chance to do my own thing, and that taught me that I never wanted to work for anybody else. I always wanted to hang my own shingle, and there I went. And then in 2012, I had a stroke, and that was a bit of a setback. It was the doctors told me it was a mild stroke. You know I thought it was a little bit more than that, and coming back from that was a challenge too. So your life is full of all those things that happen, right? Internally, externally, self-made, self-caused, and not.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Thanks for sharing, Chip. So, how did you rebuild your identity when the old version of your life no longer fits?
That's a great question. Thank you very much for asking it. It's especially after the stroke, I had to reframe. And looking back over the last 14 years, I read a book recently called The Second Mountain by David Brooks. And in it, he talks about the two mountains we climb. The first mountain is for fame, money, that kind of thing. The second one is meaning and purpose. And he talks about the second mountain as someplace you go after you go through the valley, and the valley is defined as a crisis. Well, I don't think there could be any more crisis than having a physical issue, especially a life-threatening issue. And my shift after that. So before the stroke, I was working unbelievable hours. I mean, I'd work 70, 80 hours a week and not even think twice about it. I was traveling. At that point, I was staying in a hotel over 200 nights a year. I was on more damn airplanes than you can shake a stick at. And when I wasn't in an airplane, I was driving somewhere. I never failed to get full status on any airline that I was flying. And I wasn't watching my health. I weighed 350 pounds. I was running and gunning. A stroke was pretty much inevitable. A stroke or some kind of a health crisis. And God has a way of tapping you on the shoulder and saying, "I think it's time for you to slow down." So that was a crisis that caused a complete reframing of who I was, what I wanted to do, and what impact I wanted to make. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it did. That was really amazing, especially when you make reference of starting with the mountains and the fame and everything, and the second mountain, which is more of the meaning and the purpose. I think it just speaks a whole lot of volumes, especially when you say that. Yeah, sometimes you have to go through the valleys for you to understand of the meanings and the purpose of why we're being here. And yeah, it was really amazing being that sometimes we don't get to appreciate what meanings we might actually get if there is no ups and downs, if there is no something that, yeah, that actually get to shake us at one point in time. And just hearing your stories really speak volumes to it. And yeah, that was really amazing. So your book, Small Decision, Big Shift, emphasize the power of small choices. Why do these matters more than big plan when it comes to real change?
There was a book several years ago called "What Should I Do with My Life?" It was written by Poe Bronson, and it was a pretty amazing book. He interviewed 900 people and wrote about 60 of them, and it was all people that had changed their life in some significant way. I mean, it kind of became a boomer anthem. What was interesting is it came out about the time when everybody was looking for meaning and purpose, and he was seen as extolling the virtue of dropping out of corporate life and becoming owning a bed and breakfast in Vermont, or owning a catfish farm in Mississippi, or becoming a school administrator. A few years after that, he wrote an article called "What Should I Do with My Life Revisited?" and or what should I do with my life now? And he made several points in the article. Most of the points were, hey, I wasn't trying to say, transcendent purpose. You have to have a transcendent purpose. You have to be, something that lifts you up. He said most of the time, what you're doing right now is reasonable. Your responsibilities really are your purpose. So if you're a dad, be a great dad. If you're a husband and father, be a great husband and father. The other thing he said, which I think was really interesting, is he said, we are rarely the architects of our own change.
Hmm.
Now think about that. Most of us just go through life, we don't really change. And if we're looking for a big change, if we're looking for a total shift of life, or total reframing, or that kind of thing, that's going to be scary. That's going to be hard to do. But it's if you can make those small daily decisions about behavior. One of the things in psychotherapy, and I'm not a psychotherapist, and I've never even played one on TV, but one of the things with psychotherapy is reframing things to say, if I wake up tomorrow and things are different, what's one small thing that you'll notice? Okay. Well, that goes along with the theme of small decisions, big shifts, because it's just, if you can make that one small decision, if you can make the decision to behave in a different way. And what I've done in the book is a laid out the 5 C's, which is a framework, and it's a framework for making those small decisions. And it starts with context. It starts with understanding who you are and what you're doing. Moves to clarity, which is, most people have no clue what they want. And most people have a difficult time deciding what they want. It might be fear of missing out or something like that. So having clarity is really important. Conditioning, getting your mind right. Choice, acting in ways that are favorable. And then how do you put it all together in character? So those are the 5 C's. And the 5 C's framework is a way of thinking differently about what you want and how to get it. That's those small
Yeah.
decisions.
Yeah, amazing. Thinking differently about what you want and how you get it. I think from what you just said, it just dawned on me that, yeah, major life shift does not happen being that owing to the big decision. It happen owing to the little decisions. Sometimes we don't take notice of, that we actually more like don't take to hearts, but definitely they're actually changing a whole lot of things. You just make reference of that, really speak volumes. So yes, I think it's really key that we actually pay attention to the little decisions, because every change that becomes so obvious now happens owing to the little decisions we make daily. And it's really amazing.
Well, Benaiah, is your do you feel like you change on every day?
Hmm. Do I feel? No, I don't.
Well, but see, the thing is, you do. You're a different person today than you were yesterday, but in imperceptible ways. So by the interactions that you have, by the podcasts you're doing, you're filling yourself with different ideas.
Brilliant.
And when you get those different ideas, it makes you think in different ways. And, again, it's not a big shift. It's not something you notice, but the things you talk about are going to change,
Yeah, so true.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the really important part is that, hey, I recognize that I'm changing every day. Even though others may not be able to see it, what I'm thinking changes every day by the things I read, by the things I watch, by the people I talk to, and I feel enriched by getting to know you.
Yeah.
And that's going to inform me in a different way, and I'm going to think differently about my interaction with people from Nigeria, right?
So true. So true. Yeah, so true. I think it's the fact that when this change actually happens, it's hardly noticeable, except you actually more like, yeah, yeah. I think it's really lovely from just discussion. We just make reflection. We say, please, I'll speak volumes. So it's hardly noticeable, little habit, and showing up daily and doing things differently. It might not reflect that anything is changing, but over time, you got to see that the way you think, the way you handle things, your perception about things, and a whole lot of mental models that you have compared to when any of these particular actions was not be taken. I think it's really lovely.
I had somebody say one time, a guy that I work with, and I said, he was getting an MBA, and I said, uh, what caused you to think about getting an MBA? And he said, well, 2 years from now, I can either be sitting around wondering if I'm going to get an MBA or I could have done it. The two
Mm.
years are going to pass anyway, but how am I going to be different? And that's why he was getting his MBA, and he got his MBA and he actually went on to get a doctorate. So, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Amazing. Thank you. When leaders face uncertainty and lack clear answers, how can they help their team to move forward effectively?
Well, I've been an executive coach for 27 years, and I've seen a lot of different situations, a lot of different people. Using the framework is very helpful in the way that you think about things. But, context and clarity matter a heck of a lot. And context, it's understanding what's happening with your team, where your team is, who the people on your team are, what their behavioral style is, and that kind of stuff, and that all leads to clarity, and then, or excuse me, that all leads to context, and then clarity is many things in corporate life are dependent upon me having clear expectations of what you need to do. And if I'm on the receiving end of that, so if I'm talking to you, and I give you clear expectations, then you're going to be able to take those clear expectations and act on those. If I say, "Hey, I want this done by Tuesday," that's not really clear. What I'd really like is, here is the outcome that I would like. Here's how I paint done with that. Here's how I make it look. And look, I'm not going to tell you how to do it unless you want some help, but I am going to say, hey, the outcome that I'm looking for is this. And if me, as your manager, as your leader, if I can't define the outcome that I'm looking for, then I probably don't want it anyway. And all I'm doing is asking you to do busy work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense. Yes, from context and also giving it sense of clarity. Yeah, amazing, amazing. Thank you. So, what pattern do you observe in leaders who navigate change successfully versus those who struggle?
um, have you heard of imposter syndrome?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Imposter syndrome plays a heck of a lot with that. If somebody is not really sure of themselves, if somebody doesn't understand what it is to be authentic, if somebody doesn't understand what it is to believe in what you're doing, if you've got that nagging doubt that, I'm not good enough and not smart enough and doggone it, people don't like me, that's going to be really difficult. So the book really talks about self-leadership. And I really believe that leadership of others cannot happen until you lead yourself.
Mm.
And leading yourself is how do I get over imposter syndrome? How am I authentic? How do I appear authentic? How do I show up authentically for my team? And I think that's the difference to a great degree between management and leadership. I can be a great manager, which means I'm watching the numbers and all that kind of stuff, but I can't lead people. And how many people have you worked for? I'm sure there are people you've worked for that just don't work with people really well. They're kind of jerks, and
That's true.
and they don't realize what jerks they are. Well, they're hiding something. They're hiding something. Imposter syndrome. They may just be disagreeable people, but they've never really learned how to lead themselves. They think they have to portray themselves in some particular way.
Yeah, amazing. This is really lovely. Being that imposter syndrome is more like the difference most times between leaders who lead very well and those who doesn't, owing to the fact that yeah, because there's more like these nagging voices in their head and telling they are not enough and what they can do differently. I think it can really be so sabotaging that I think I just hearing you just make reference of it just shows that a whole lot of leaders or what make leaders different from manager, being that manager can be just more like a big about the results, about the numbers, and about each and everything that comes into being compared to leaders. So there's this level of vulnerability that comes from it. And it's only those who more like are not plagued by it. They already understood themselves, they have led themselves, they're able to kind of walk that particular path, yeah, without feeling the burden of I'm not enough and I'm not worthy.
Well, Benaya, so a question for you is what kind of characteristics do you want to work for? What kind of characteristics do you see in a leader that you want to work for?
Okay, I think the character I want to see in a leader I work for is the fact that they are open and they are willing to tell you more like their strengths and weakness, and they're willing to kind of take the lead through their by examples. They could actually more like show things differently of what could be different to achieve the results, not just who ask or who make more like or make command of you go there without actually more like going the path, but through their actions and reactions we get to see that they care and they are willing to lead the way.
Okay. So what do you think keeps people from those characteristics?
Yeah, I think it might be shame, it might be feeling guilty, it might be the fact that they don't believe in themselves, and yeah, they don't want to be vulnerable, and a whole lot of things hiding under the scene that we didn't get to know of. Or it might be just be them hiding those things from the limelight.
Vulnerability is a big thing. Think about it. How many people are vulnerable enough to tell their story? You know,
Mm,
um, because it really goes to I must be seen in a certain way, and if everything I do must be filtered through that lens, I must be seen a certain way, then there's going to be that facade that is just not going
yeah,
to be good. So how do you develop some of those
yeah. Um, I think it's easier to develop most of this particular stuff if you lead yourself very well in terms of maybe you've gone through trauma before, you have gone through some certain kind of stuff that make you feel unworthy by actually accepting those particular stories that everything that happens to me is true, and you heal from them, and now you actually get to love who you have become. And I think over time there's going to be most of this reflection that shows that yeah, you have gone through that part, you love who you have become, and you are living out, you acknowledge your strengths and weaknesses, and owing to that, I think there's this energy that comes with that, the fact that you love who you have become, you accept everything that went along the way before you became what you have become, and people get to see it owing to the energy that it exhibits. Because I think there is this energy that comes with more like accepting who you are without even the result yet, accepting who you are, and yeah, accepting who you are for just being you. And there's this energy that comes with it that make others want to just accept who they are, and yeah, riding that same energy too.
about? Everybody has things that are problematic.
Yeah.
Maybe they think it'll hurt themselves. Maybe they think it'll hurt others. I just read a recent book by a friend of mine, and he admitted some things in the book that were pretty incredible. And I
Mm,
know it cost him a lot to be able to say those things. And he and I talked about it when I was putting my book out and when he was putting his book out. Vulnerability is a tough thing, because again, there may be people who are involved with that may be hurt
yeah.
by the things you admit, and you may want to admit them, just get them off your chest, but they're not going to be good for other people.
So true. So true. I think learning how to manage vulnerability should be another topic, which we actually will like get to study again, so that at the end of the day, those who are victim of it, who are part of the stories, and who are part of the hurt when this happen, wouldn't wouldn't fall into depression and be more hurt after. Yeah, it's really lovely. So, what
Yeah.
advice do you give to leaders who feel stuck but can't identify why?
I don't live in my client's skin. I'm not there. I don't make their decisions. I don't hang with them during daily tasks. I'm not with them 24 hours a day. And so I don't give advice. And I found that if you give advice, if I were to give advice and they take it and it doesn't turn out well, who's going to get blamed? I'm going to
It's
get
going to
blamed.
be, yeah.
Yeah. So advice is a slippery slope. And if I give them that advice and they take it or they don't take it, then I might get hurt because they haven't taken the advice. So I don't give advice. What I do is I help people solve their own problems. Because if you're solving your own problem, if you're making your own decisions, if you're coming up with your own ideas, then you're more willing to access them, you're more willing to act out on them. And it just, it plays a lot better. So, my role as a coach is to ask great questions and let people figure things out for themselves.
Yeah, amazing. Let people figure things out. Because I think at the end of the day, almost everybody know what they ought to do to become better. So I tell them, I'll do better in that particular place where they are. But sometimes they just need someone who to kick them in the boat and say, yeah, come on, go ahead and get to do that. Yeah, I think it's
Have
really
have
amazing.
you ever have you ever showed up for a job or some kind of a task thinking that you're going to make it a really bad day for someone? I mean,
Mm,
have you ever shown up on a job saying, "I'm going to do a crappy job today"?
have I? I can't think of any moment where more like going to joy.
Yeah, and so, that happens all the time. That the people never show up for a job thinking, "I'm going to do a crappy job today." People don't show up and saying, "I'm going to make it really tough on you today." They don't think that, and so there's a little acronym that I heard a while back, which I really like, and it's called TAG. It's treat everyone with respect. Second one is assume positive intent, and third is grace. Treat everyone with respect, assume positive intent. And that's one of the hardest things to do is assume positive intent because if you read the news, and I don't care whether it's in Nigeria or the United States or where you are, if you read the news, it's all bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you find man's inhumanity to man, murders, rapes, just people being ugly. That tends to flavor you in one way. And so instead of listen, if I'm talking to you, if I've met you for the first time, which we have today, um, and I did not assume positive intent, I would think to myself, well, how is Benaiah going to rip me off? How is he
Mm,
scamming me? Or I can assume positive intent, which is to say, Benaya's here, yes, it's mutual benefit. I mean, it's not all about me, it's not all about you, but it's mutual. And I'm assuming positive intent. And the other thing is we all screw up. We all make mistakes. We're human. That's just kind of the human condition. And the thing is we don't know we're wrong until we know we're wrong. And at that moment that we know we're wrong, then I would hope that someone I'm talking to would grant me the grace to let me make a mistake and let me recoup from that. Let me
yeah.
redeem myself.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. I think this is really enlightening. Yeah, treat everyone with respect, assume everyone with perceptive intention and grant grace. Yeah, I think this tag I'm going to kind of hang it somewhere. Yeah, thank you so much.
Hey, I
Uh,
didn't come up with it. You're more than welcome to use it because I ripped it off from somebody else.
wow, amazing. So, how do you measure success now compared to how you did before your stroke?
Great question. So it's more about purpose, and my purpose statement is pretty simple. My purpose statement is I live to develop people, and it has a couple different parts to that. First part is that it's I live to develop people, not just others. And the reason that it's people is I'm a people too. So I have to develop myself to be the best I can be so I can help you be the best you can be. That means that I read a lot. That means that I write a lot. That means that I'm going to do those things that help me help you. The second thing is that I live to develop people. And so developing people is leaving them better than when I had the first interaction. Yeah. So, I'm a wood turner. You can see some things that I've turned in the back. Those are pieces that I've
Yeah,
made.
it's really amazing.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. And I teach classes. I'm the president of the North Carolina Woodturners Association. I'm not doing it because, I want the pats on the back or the, or the statue at the end of that. In fact, I'm just now starting my fourth year is that. But I want people when they come in to the meeting to be better off when they leave. It extends to family. I want them to be the best they can be. It extends to all my clients that I want them to be the best they can be. So, that becomes the meaning and the purpose that I follow after. It's just it's something that's ingrained in my head, ingrained on my soul, ingrained in my heart, and it's something that is extremely important to me.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Chip. And yeah, and your book, the what is one key point you want audience to leave with when they actually more like it's the book and read it.
Change is not scary.
Hmm.
Change
Changes.
is manageable. That you don't have to be stuck where you are. And I think that's extremely important. Is you don't have to be stuck where you
Yeah,
are.
stuck where you are.
Yeah,
I think it's really inspiring to me that yeah, you don't have to be stuck.
yeah.
There's a whole lot you could do even when you're stuck. And I think, yeah, this is really amazing. Also, for my audience who want to reach out to you, who want to learn more from you, either for your coaching section or for your book and for your content to actually reach out and follow you on various media, how can they reach out to you and where is the best platform?
Well, I do participate in LinkedIn fairly heavily. My LinkedIn handle is Chip Scholz. I've got a website, scholzassociates.com. Certainly buy my books. I've got the one that came out in October that we've talked about, and then I've got another one coming out in March called Every Dog Has Its Day: Reflections on Life, Love, and the Lathe. I've got one that's also coming out next October, and I'm looking forward to that. So there's multiple ways, and interacting with you, and I'm sure you're going to put some contact information in the show notes, and let's just have a dialogue.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chipo. Thank you for sharing your stories and yeah, your stories of resilience, reflection, and the power of small intentional choice. The journey reminds us that real transformation often happen quietly, one decision at a time. And for our listener, you can actually explore Chip's work and deliver and discover Chip's reading and learn more about coaching at chipанdassociate.com. The link is going to be on the show notes. And really, it's really a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.